Velkommen til Digitaliseringspodden. Programlederne er Jens Christian Bang og Dag Rustad.
Buenos dias, Ramsés Gallego.
Good morning, buenos dias.
Good morning. Vi har med oss Ramsés Gallego, som er Chief Technologist Cybersecurity fra DXC Technology. Og han har nettopp vært på scenen på Cybersecurity.
I Oslo, med computerspill.
Et fantastisk show.
Han er et energiorakel, vil jeg si. Altså det er fantastisk energi- og presentasjonsteknikk. Så vi er heldige å få Gallego i studio her nå, for å bruke litt ekstra av energien hans før han går ned i null. For det kan jo ikke holde hele dagen.
Det kan ikke.
Nice introduction of yourself.
Oh, I guess so. I heard fantastic a couple of times, and I said, well, that's good. This is going good. No, thank you for having me. It's great to be on your show and with your audience, so thank you for having me. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
So, Gallego, we usually start off with kind of asking our guest on who they are. So, can you give us a short introduction of Gallego?
Absolutely. My name is Ramsés Gallego. I'm 51 years old. I'm from Barcelona, Spain, although I'm a world traveler. As you rightly said, I am Chief Technologist, Cybersecurity with DXC, and I am so honored of representing the house around the world. I have a busy travel schedule, but basically explaining our vision and mission, purpose and promise. That's what I did today here in Oslo, in sunny Oslo today. But it's great, to represent the house and explain the importance of the journey from cybersecurity to cyber resiliency and the important, pillars of protecting countries, organizations, and regions at large of the world. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Personal life?
Well, yes. I'm married. I have a girl and a boy. But I think that your audience would be interested to know that I'm a marathoner. I've done 22 marathons already, including the 6 world marathon majors. So not just 22 marathons, but including Tokyo, Berlin, London, Chicago, New York, and Boston.
Isn't that an achievement that you get a medal for?
Exactly, actually, and this is a podcast thing, but I have it tattooed on my calf. Unfortunately, they are not able to see it, but they give you, when you finish the journey, when you finish the Grand Slam, let's say, when you finish the 6 World Marathon Majors, they give you a medal, which is a medal made out of medals. So I have it tattooed on my calf.
But
so
I wouldn't have guessed that you were a marathoner.
I know. I'm not the typical marathoner. I know. I weigh like 95 kilos or something. I'm not fast, but that tells a lot. And if I may, and you ask me for my personal life and also professional life, if I can combine them. That tells a lot about discipline and tenacity. And when one works in cybersecurity, my marathon journey, 22 marathons, and I have done other long distance running, 100 kilometers, but that's for another podcast. But I've done crazier things than marathons. But that tells a lot about tenacity, discipline, passion, commitment to what you do. And cybersecurity is not that different from running, from training, from being focused on the thing. So I try to combine in my answer, my personal life and my hobby, and also my professional life, which is about getting the bad guys out and getting the bad things out of a company,
but
right?
Don't you think it's boring to be running for 4 hours?
Well, I don't think it is, because
I think it's super boring. I've been running half a marathon.
Okay.
And those 2 hours?
Yeah, 2 hours, yeah.
Who should I talk with?
No, yes,
you
but
can think. You can
exactly.
solve the
There are
world
many.
problems,
I get it, and I respect that. But there are many marathons in a marathon. Let me put it this way: 4 hours, or 4 hours and a half, 5 hours, or 3 hours and a half. Many things happen personally in your brain, in your physical resistance. So while I respect that, I don't think it's boring, because there are many journeys within that journey. I would say so. Apart from seeing the city, Tokyo, New York. You go through Brooklyn, through Queens, in Boston. But apart from that, I think that it's a beautiful journey. And of course, when you finish, crossing the finish line. It's like it's the glory. It's for history. But I respect that. I give you that. Yeah.
Let's get back to the presentation that you had on the stage some minutes ago.
Yep.
And I would say that proves that you're a sprinter as well. You're not only a long distance runner. You have a lot of energy on stage, so that's beautiful.
Thank you.
But you talked about cybersecurity and that tomorrow is today.
Yep.
And that the 3 pillars.
Yeah. Who has access to what? Absolutely.
Identity management.
And identity data and applications.
Yeah.
Because I think, and I appreciate the question, and thank you for the comment of my session, and the passion and the energy, but that's part of the game. When one has to explain the chaotic approach on, IT in general, we have big data and databases, and we have the mobile devices, and we have clouds, and we have, so it's a chaotic approach that we have grown our societies, every bank, every hospital out there, every school, every retail company. Okay, so understanding in a unified and simplified way the three very pillars of every company: identity, data, and applications. And as a consequence, the universal question: who has access to what? When you are doing fraud investigation, when you are doing forensic analysis, when you are doing basically any investigation, at the end of the day, what you need to know, and I'm serious, I'm not talking only about IT, I'm talking about regular questions in life, with your family, with your peers, with your partners, is, excuse me, when did that happen? Who did it? Where it happened? How was that possible? So when you are investigating things, so security, and again,
how to prevent it in the future.
Exactly. How to avoid that further things happen in order to have a lessons learned exercise. If you know what happened, you are very capable to avoid that thing. Other things will happen, but that same thing will not happen again. If you have a lessons learned exercise, who had access to what, right? So I think that's beautiful. I think so.
Only do the mistake one time.
Exactly. I'm wrong one time, and again, life is life, and life will take us to different paths, but that one, never again. And that's what the industry calls continuous improvement. I'm a Six Sigma Black Belt certified. When you know what produced an outcome, when you know what variables produce that outcome, other things will happen, but that mistake, never again. That breach, that vulnerability, never again. And I think that's a very powerful message that we do at DXC in order to let the world know, guys, pay attention, ask the right questions, be effective, be efficient, and then you are on a continuous improvement mode, I would say. And that's what I tried to say, among other things, on stage today. Absolutely.
Yeah, and one of the things that you were saying that I've been thinking over is we know what's happened, and we know today, referring to Mother Teresa, that you had this quote. But this is the future, and we don't know what's coming in the future, but we know that it will be different from what's now.
Actually, I mentioned, thank you for that, and I quoted Mother Teresa on stage today. I quoted Gandhi, but it's important to embrace change. Listen, there are, and I think that your audience will love that, hopefully. There are two things, and only two things that are constant in the universe. Constant. One is the speed of light. Let's keep that aside. Einstein said so okay, let's go with that. Okay? And the other thing that is constant, and I think it's a beautiful paradox, is change. It is constant that everything changes. Business change, politics, people change. So what I shared on stage, the 3 Ds of change: the velocity, the variety, and the volume of change. Velocity of change, everything goes very fast, AI, quantum, you name it. Every technology from every corner. So velocity. Variety, different flavors on basically everything. Mobiles, clouds, networks, applications, solutions, platforms. Oh boy, variety. And then the volume of change. If you want to understand, especially with AI, if you want to have one single instance of the truth, you need to understand the sources of data. Otherwise, AI will, hallucinate, and you know the drill, right? And your audience certainly understands that. So velocity, variety of change. And you were very right on saying, well, like Mother Teresa said, we don't know the future, we don't know tomorrow. But tomorrow is going to be different, so get ready. Get ready how? In a robust approach, in a let's say, in a resilient approach. I would say that and that's beautiful as well, I think. Yeah.
But I mean, as a customer, is it enough to just get DXC on board and you take care of everything? I mean, it sounds too easy, right? You're proactive. You're constantly, challenging the bad changes and what's happening.
That's
right?
what we do. Other companies do that, but yeah.
But I mean, there's more to it.
Yes, actually, of course, to your question, I'm a DXC employee and I'm the chief technologist. Of course, I have to say that. Yes, of course. I mean, but I want to be absolutely respectful with your question and with the people listening to your podcast, to this podcast, which is, well, it's good, but it's not enough because there are so many angles to that. We at DXC, we provide, of course, different services, but there are other companies that provide good services, and there are some vendors, because we are a services company, but there are vendors, you know the names, right? So of course, my soul tells me to tell you, yes, it's not DXC is all you need. Well, no, you have to play strategically and tactically.
And change
exactly,
management.
right? And do change management. How many people that are listening to this podcast understand crisis management? Well, crisis management is part of the game as well, because things will happen.
Right.
And it will be Russia, it will be China, it will be your competitor, hopefully
COVID
not, or whoever. It could be, but it could be a country. It could be your competitor, next door that is trying to get your intellectual property, and then, So, as I said on stage, everything, so unfortunately, it's at 3 clicks of distance. And because it's at 3 clicks of distance, get ready for tomorrow, for different change. And of course, define your providers, and it could be hopefully DXC, but there are others, of course. But according to and this is very important, your risk profile. Not many people understand their exposure factor, EF, exposure factor, and the risk profile. So I think that's very important to understand your appetite of risk. And according to your appetite of risk, you will choose DXC or another company. But according to that, not many conversations, unfortunately, happen on how exposed I am, how attractive I am for cyber criminals, right? And this is critical. Absolutely critical.
You travel all around.
I do.
Yeah, doing speeches. But one question that I get is that in Norway we have a lot of trust.
Yeah.
We trust each other.
Excellent. That's
Also
a cultural thing that I love, by the way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But it's also a challenge. It can be an issue when it comes to security.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But from a global perspective, do you see kind of different approaches to trust?
100%. And I love it because this region of the world, as you rightly said, the culture plays a strong role, in security. But let's take, I'm Spanish, but let's take the Mediterranean guys, Italy, Spain, and Portugal, or let's take Latin America. I mean, the cultural approach is absolutely different. And let me use Spanish if I may. Mañana, un poquito, despacito, they say, we'll see. And that's incorrect, because when you have to protect things, you cannot say, well, we'll check out tomorrow. Take it easy. Excuse me, take it easy.
It won't happen to us.
It won't happen now. Come on, who's interested? Or let's take the Asians, for instance. Japan is probably too much respectful, and I understand that respect is critical, but too much, So your question was very pointed, and I appreciate that, because culture plays a strong role in the equation of protection. I like that. And of course, here in Norway and in the Nordics, the way you trust each other, the way you say, oh, no, it's going to be okay, it plays an important role in cybersecurity.
Within it's
yeah, absolutely.
Protect us from the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
That is critical.
Not the others, exactly. You may trust yourselves, but who's coming from Spain, or who's coming from, have a provider from Singapore, with all due respect for, I mean, you have to check and double check and get. I don't like the word, but let me use it on your podcast, if I may. You need to get obsessed. You need to get obsessed because they are obsessed with attacking you. They are obsessed with your data, with your designs, with your sexual information. They are obsessed. Well, you should be obsessed on protecting that, which I think it is what it takes.
I think that's probably one of the main problems with security, that people are not obsessed. Because if you're running a big company or a smaller company, you have so much to focus on that is around your product or your services.
Exactly.
And not about this byproduct that is security, which is like it's boring.
Yeah. It doesn't add.
It should only work
to the business,
And in enterprises, we have that department that takes care of it.
Exactly.
It's not our problem.
The guys with the machines and the colors, and the lights. No, excuse me.
Don't bring this into the boardroom.
And that's a challenge. I mean, I travel the world talking with board of directors, steering committees. And I understand that they need to ensure that the trucks go out, that the books are delivered, that the goods are... I understand that. But in order for that to happen, cybersecurity, resiliency, protection, who has access to what, it's also part of the equation. And I'm so sorry. Let me put it this way. Well, I celebrate the how good we have come across. Cybersecurity now is better than 5 years ago, and resiliency is better now than 2 years ago, but still there's massive room for improvement. I meet with CEOs, CTOs, every day, and sometimes they don't get it. They are so focused on, again, getting the goods delivered, and I'm sorry, but the factory can be stopped. Someone from Singapore, Spain, or any other country, I say with respect, can get your factory at a halt, and then the trucks are not going to deliver any good, So as I said before, exposure factor, appetite for risk, those are instrumental questions.
When you meet all these people,
Yep.
CEOs and
Yep.
everyone, one important thing or message for you or mission would be to change their culture. Because if you don't get the security culture into the company, you are kind of lost. Then you're back to national cultures like mañana,
Absolutely.
poquito.
Now, you know what? I wouldn't say it's a massive challenge. I wouldn't be fair if I think that my task is changing culture. Actually, Peter Drucker said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. That's the quote from Peter Drucker. But culture is so.
What does that mean?
Meaning that culture is beyond everything you can imagine. You can have all of the processes and procedures and strategies that you want. If people are not used to do that, if culture is trust or no trust, they will say, whatever. So what I'm trying to say, that your question, I appreciate the question, but I wouldn't say that my task or our task is to change culture, but to change behavior.
Yeah.
The culture is the culture,
Mindset
but to
and
change the
behavior.
mindset and the behavior, and to have them in their minds that while the trucks need to get out, while the books need to be delivered, while the goods need to be, but there's a function for that to happen that it's called security, identity. Who has access to what? Resiliency, endpoint protection, cloud management, governance, risk. And if they don't understand that, and I'm also a professor, so I'm very proud of now more and more in business schools, when CEOs get out and now they are the number one of Sony or the JP Morgan Chase, it is fantastic to see how business schools and master degrees, they have a chapter or two chapters on cybersecurity, protection, law, compliance. That didn't happen 10 years ago. It was business and production and statistics and profit and loss. Well, business schools are now understanding that for the trucks to deliver the goods, etc., security is fundamental. Resilience is fundamental. Understanding of the environment and change is fundamental. So yes, I celebrate that. But not the culture, but the behavior.
But I kind of disagree with
Okay,
the
absolutely,
culture
of
part,
course.
because
Okay.
when they start to build cars, or they have built
Yep.
car for a long time in
Yep.
Czech Republic,
Yep.
which was like
Yep.
for 30 years ago, was belonging to Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And they had an old culture and mentality.
Yeah.
But then they got factories from Germany,
Yep.
and they started to build with much higher quality.
Yeah, more quality cars,
And that's a quality culture that
Yeah.
they kind of adopted. So you change the culture. And
Well,
same in
maybe,
Spain,
maybe,
where
yeah,
you're
Yeah.
building cars there. You can be in that industry
without
mañana
No,
or
yeah.
You have to
poquito, thinking. You have to change the culture for your people in the
Absolutely.
company to be different,
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
you are
Yeah.
home is not the same
Absolutely.
as you are at work.
What I'm trying to say that it takes time, and by time I say a decade, So this is why I said that my journey is not changing the culture but changing behavior. But I agree with you. If you want to change culture, first, this is something that the industry calls tone at the top. Tone at the top is if the CEO, CTO, board of directors, steering committees believes in it.
Yeah.
They will spread out the culture, but it takes time. You don't do it overnight. You don't do it in a quarter. Not because I say, hey guys, you know what? The new culture is this. they are gonna believe. It takes, in my opinion, at least a decade or so. And this is why Spain, we have SEAT, which is owned by Volkswagen. Of course, our cars were not that good. And look at SEAT now. Again, it's owned by Volkswagen. We have not only SEAT, but Cupra, which is the sporty part of SEAT.
We have it here in
So
Norway.
but it's good, But it takes time. That's what I'm saying. So I agree with you, but certainly not overnight, and not certainly because the new CEO say, guys, the new culture of the company is this. Go on, start doing it. No, it takes some time.
And I agree on that, and especially with the top person, CEO,
Tone at
need
the top,
to own the topic.
Absolutely.
I've seen
Absolutely.
that in companies that is going to be ISO
Yeah.
certificated,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
quality.
yeah.
And then the CEO just, because they had to, just hired a quality director, and then he left it. Yeah. And then
Check. I have a quality director. That's all I need, you know, for
Yeah, exactly. But it has to be on the CEO's table.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
this goes for a lot of different
100%.
topics. Security,
Precisely.
marketing, sale, product development.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Leadership and execution. You need to have a leadership and a direction. What we at DXC, we call it a mission and vision, purpose and promise. Mission and vision is great. I mean, I have that mission, the vision, okay. Purpose and promise is the execution. It's let's do it. Not just because I said, no, let's do it. Let's fucking do it. you
But
know?
I think that we can agree that, as you said, you need to get obsessed.
Yeah.
And being obsessed, you have to do mindset and change your mindset
100%.
and
Be
behavior.
obsessed or be average.
And on the long term, it's also a culture thing.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
If you get
Yeah.
obsessed, it
Yeah.
will become part of the culture.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Precisely. Yeah.
I think we are approaching the end, Jens Christian. We could talk for hours.
Unfortunately, because I'm enjoying.
We would like
I'm
to
having
talk
a blast
for-
of a time. Yeah.
We would like to have 2 hours with you.
Anytime,
because, it's
anytime.
Great
It's a-
energy and good topics and good discussions.
Thank you.
Are you coming back to Norway?
Oh yeah, I mean that's part of my region. So absolutely. I don't know if it's gonna be next week, but certainly that's part of the area I'm responsible for. And as I said on stage, and I wanted to be captured on your podcast, it's a pleasure to be in this country, in this region at large. So for your information, guys, I've been already in Svalbard. So I've been up. So
Did you see any polar bears?
No, but I enjoyed the how you call it, the 24-hour sun. I mean, I mean, I loved it. So I know Norway quite in a way. Actually, in August, I'm invited to Lillehammer in the Lillehammer.
Olympic.
So exactly the Olympic site and the jumping, etc. So yes, the answer is yes. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be back to Norway and the region. So and thank you for having me on your podcast, and hopefully it was
A
good.
true Norwegian friend.
I consider myself a friend of the country because you guys always treat me so well. So it's great to be here.
Thank you for your time.
Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Takk for at du hørte på Digitaliseringspodden, levert av Computerworld og Already On.